applications.
I do have that. Yes.
Thanks.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Engel, if I could ask you to do roll call this evening, please.
Terry Engel here. Joanne Maloney.
She will be absent.
Okay. Rich Mueller.
Here.
Travis Rao.
Here.
Dan Schmidt.
He will be absent.
Lauren Shanerock.
Here.
And Rick Schultz.
Here. We have an agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or corrections, Dr. Carlson?
No.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rao, seconded by Mr. Mueller to approve the agenda as presented. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller.
Aye.
Travis Rao.
Aye.
Lauren Shanerock.
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. We're anxious to get the teaching and learning feature back sometime in the not too distant future, but for now we will move right into a resolution relating to the $611,000 general obligation capital facilities refunding. We're happy to have Mr. Michael Hart here with us this evening that will walk us through this process. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Glad to be back with you here tonight. As we talked about at your board meeting last month, the district had an opportunity to refinance or refund outstanding bonds for interest cost savings. And so the resolution you have in front of you is to take final action on that and proceed forward tonight. At the last board meeting, we talked about, we're looking at your 2013 general obligation bonds, and we're not making any payment changes to the structure or keeping the structure relatively the same. What we're really looking at with this action is to reduce the interest rate to have savings to the district. Our final result from the sale, we went through a process of putting together a term sheet, submitting that out to financial institutions and taking their bids, and we received those back last week, is a final borrowing amount of $611,000 and gross savings of $27,462 for the district. If you remember when I was here last time, we were estimating about $17,000, so this is better than we expected. And the board had put a minimum floor on that of $10,000 of savings. It comes from an interest rate of 0.59% is what the new interest rate on the bonds is. And this savings, where it will be realized is that this is a part of the district's, it's paid out of the district's capital funds, which it receives as a part of your general fund. And so that savings will go back into those funds in future years as the payment is less, and the district will have an opportunity to use that money in a better way than on interest expense. So like I said, we submitted it out to financial institutions. We received back 5 different bids, including a couple from local financial institutions to your area. The best bid coming from the Bank of Elk River. They're a Minnesota-based bank too, and we've seen them support these types of issues across the state pretty consistently over the past few years. And but you can see we had really good bids across the board. Your two local banks, frankly, were more in line with what I expected the rates to be, and how what the numbers were based upon when I was here a month ago. So I was very pleased with the result that we got here. At the last meeting, the board took action to authorize us to proceed forward with this, such that we met certain parameters that were refunding the 2013 bonds, that we stay within a size of $611,000, that we are doing at least $10,000 of savings. PMA is acting on your behalf as a part of the process, and that we're a part of the state credit enhancement program, and we met all of those requirements that were laid out by the board resolution that you took action on in April. The last couple of things in slides in here show some of the detail of how we got to the savings number, the $27,462, and you'll see it'll be realized each year throughout the remaining term of the bonds, saving about $4,000 each year for 7 years in the future year. And this last slide shows the uses of the funds, so that, in an effort of transparency, so that you can see just under $600,000 of those funds are going to pay off the old bonds, and the other cost of issuance are laid out there clearly, so that everybody understands how it's put together. Do you have any questions for me about the results here?
Otherwise, there's a resolution
Yeah, so
to adopt.
there's a resolution in your packet here, and this resolution again takes final action on this. It would cause us to continue the process to actually affect closing of the new bond issue on June 8th, and we'll pay off those old bonds, and for your next fiscal year you'll be paying on the new bond issue.
Well, I want to thank you first off for your work and bringing that to our attention. Anytime we can have those types of savings, that's great news to us, and we will hopefully hear from you down the road when some others become available to refinance, if there's still an advantage to do so. So I've always been proud of the people we've worked with as a district to pay attention to this. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for him before we move forward on approving the resolution? Someone would like to introduce that resolution, please.
I'll move the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Mr. Schoenrock, seconded by Ms. Engel. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rowell,
Aye.
Lauren Shanerock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Resolution carries. So thank you again. Appreciate your time here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
The public comments, I don't believe we have any this evening, Dr. Carlson. With that, we are pleased to have members of the Richland Area Foundation here to have a grant presentation, or I should say grants as in plural. So thank you for coming, and at this time we'll open it up to you people.
All right, thank you for having us. Lena Johnson, Betsy Bartness, and myself have been on this committee for about 2 weeks now, and we're not sure where the rest of the committee is, but joke's on us, maybe. But anyway, Lena's going to take the lead on introducing, and as she describes the grant, if you could come up, if you are the one that wrote the grant, that would be great. We'll just have you say a few words.
So after 25 years, I still am Lena Ryla, not Lena Johnson.
Well, they can't spell that.
I wrote it down back
Okay.
there.
All right.
Yes, we are representing the New Richland Area Foundation, which is a subset of the Waseca Area Foundation, just funds that are just designated for New Richland. And so I think I tallied that about $10,000 was granted for projects that benefit the school district. So with that, we've got, if we could have the $2,025 that was granted to the special ed EBD room supplies, if you can come up and.
So Courtney Classic applied for this one. She's going to tell you just a little bit about it.
Hello everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Courtney Classic. I'm a special ed teacher here at the secondary building. And I had requested, some funds to be brought into the district as I had recently gotten approved to have an emotional behavioral disorder room in the secondary building. That room is really focused toward helping students learn self-regulation strategies so that they are more successful in their classroom setting and hopefully learn better while here at the school. So this will be going to programming, supplies, furniture, anything that we might need to kind of get the program up and running. So thank you very much.
Next up, we have accepting for the senior class 2021 celebrations, Mrs. Bentley. We were able to grant $500 to this.
On behalf of the senior class, I'd like to express our gratitude to your organization. The senior class will be using the funds toward our special event, which just occurred, to be honest. We had the community parade, and the seniors had a cookout, which they enjoyed very much, some delicious hamburgers and other food. And we'll use it for other continuing expenses, which are likely to arise, given the complex year we are having. So, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Representing the STEAM program, Mr. Anderson, if you would please come up, we were able to grant $2,000 to this program.
Thank you very much for this. The elementary building has identified a need to incorporate a science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics program as part of our curriculum. So this will allow us to pursue curriculum, materials, and supplies for that program. Thank you.
Yes. Unable to attend, we've got $950 for the social mental health curriculum, and Carla will share some information about that.
Yeah, our special ed teacher from Ellendale named Dina Summer applied for this. She said, thank you to the New Richland Area Foundation for this grant that will be used for social emotional learning for students. I am truly grateful to receive this grant. This curriculum will help students understand themselves and others to better navigate the social world, build relationships, and improve their performance at school and at home. The unique tools break down complex social concepts into understandable and doable parts that can be applied in any setting. With the social thinking methodology, students will learn strategies to improve their social competencies, including self-regulation, social emotional learning, executive functioning, perspective taking, and social problem solving. This is not just for our students to learn what is expected at school, but for at home and in the community. Thank you, Dina Summer. Fourth grade, you guys are both coming up?
Okay, so we've got $450 that was granted to the elementary for the purpose of fraction tile sets.
Thank you. Well, we don't have anything written out like that. But we are super thankful and grateful to the New Richland Area Foundation. You've been very generous and giving throughout all of my years here. This year we happened to ask for a set of fraction tiles in our current curriculum. The kids are cutting out their own fractions. So if you can imagine trying to save that year after year, we are grateful that you have this one-time purchase that will cover us for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If Sarah Erke could come up, she will be speaking about the literacy lesson set that was purchased for the elementary school for $1,650.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm the Title I teacher in Ellendale, and this, sorry about that, this money will be used to purchase a Countdown to Learning program for our kindergarten teachers to use with kindergarten students. It's a bunch of literacy lessons that provide direct, explicit, systematic, multisensory instruction in the areas of phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics. And so we're hoping that our youngest learners then will have a solid literacy foundation. So,
And in full transparency, this grant only covers 50% of that literacy lesson set, but we felt this might be an excellent opportunity to use ESSER funding to help bring that up. So
thank
we
you.
were able to cover half.
Very much appreciated.
Our final grant is for the NRHEG Community Ed Program for curriculum and play center equipment. Are you up?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. And $3,025 was awarded for that.
Thank you so much. I'm Amy Jensen. I'm the 3-year-old and 4 to 5-year-old preschool teacher in Ellendale. And we just want to update our curriculum, and then we want to use it for update our dramatic play area in the New Richland building and the Ellendale building. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And if we can have all of the recipients outside briefly for a photograph, we appreciate it.
I'd just like to thank the New Richland Foundation for all their donations, not only this year, but the previous years. You guys have all been very supportive of the school district, so please pass that on. I know you people are new to the system, but you've moved up the ranks very rapidly. I think you have a great solid foundation there that you could see a long career there. So thanks for thinking, in all seriousness, thanks for the support of the school district, and please pass that on to the people that need to know that. So this time we'll take you out in the hall and get some more pictures though, but thank you very much. That's fine, they'll be fine without me.
Whistle through a few line items.
I know, I was gonna say, I got it, for once, first part of the meeting, we made a little money here tonight. So. That's a nice one, right?
And Dale, look as I make a motion to adjourn.
Right, yeah, yeah, I like it.
You didn't hear that, because we might want to use that one on you too.
That's like $21,000.
Yeah.
Oh no, $37,000.
Yeah. Well, that'll last through 2 more items on the agenda.
I was gonna say till tomorrow noon, but maybe I'd like to say 2 more items.
Well, if my wife had anything to do with those pictures, they'd be out there a half hour. Bless her heart.
Title them Brown, 2021. ready to continue on? Okay, perfect. All right. Moving on, we'll proceed with the superintendent's report. Dr. Carlson, please.
Thank you. You have the administrative reports in your packet. I'm just going to mention on mine, there is an error on it's number 5 on mine, teacher negotiations. I have it down that the next meeting is scheduled for June 2nd. That is not happening on that date, so we are, a date is yet to be determined on the next meeting date. Otherwise, just want to remind the board of our end of the year employee recognition that we continue to plan. And it would be nice if board members, if you're available, perhaps about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and we'll have a time to bring staff together, an all district staff meeting, celebration, recognition for our employees. And so the program is slated at about 2:30, but we'll have some refreshments to start prior to that. You have the principal reports in your packet as well. I don't know, I'll just ask if there's anything to add, Mr. Bunn or Mr. Anderson, to your printed reports. Board members, this is your time to ask questions of any of us on our reports.
I have one question, and it's about the bingo.
Yes.
How does that work? Does each classroom play the, like, regular bingo, or is it a different type of bingo?
It'll be school-wide over the PA,
Oh,
and the prizes, they'll come up to the office one by one, and they'll be on a table, so.
oh, that'll be fun. Okay, I was just wondering how you're gonna do that. I was like, oh.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any board member comments tonight?
Well, I guess I have one. I know we just kind of went through prom there, and I just, for those of you that maybe weren't involved or didn't, I had one child involved in that, and was glad to see the kids get to have a kind of a somewhat normal event, and having it outside there in Geneva went pretty good, other than the girls, I think, were a little fresh that day, but it was a little cool out. But that's not saying, it seemed like it, to me, it went off pretty good, and I was glad to see the kids have fun.
It's nice to see smiles on faces.
Yeah. Or teeth chattering.
Yeah, the spectators were in their winter coats and stuff,
Right.
yeah, and the girls in their little dresses. I'm like, oh dear. But it was beautiful.
Good. All right. Information, talked about the recognition program, and then we will continue here in the Secondary School Media Center here, Monday, June 21st for the next regular scheduled board meeting. So that will move into consent agenda items, and Dr. Carlson, please introduce those.
Thank you. So in your packet on the consent agenda, you have the minutes of the April 19th, 2021 regular school board meeting. You have board bills totaling $459,650.18. Donations this evening. We thank the following for thinking of the school district and through their donations. The 761 Foundation of Owatonna towards the 2021 Ag Grant of $3,000. Panther Den towards Eagle Bluff, $375. The NRHEG PTO, a donation of $168 towards smoke-free t-shirts. Also the PTO donation of $139.09 to Mr. Domeyer's classroom novel set. We have $500 donated from Freeborn County Co-op Oil to the STEAM program. And we have mask donations from Amanda Lazowski, and also, I don't think it's on your list here in your packet, but also Dollar General. We show a total monetary value of about $4,182.09, bringing so far this school year to $56,778.94. You also have a recommendation to renew the optional student insurance plan for this coming school year, and the cost has not increased for families from last year. You have a recommendation to renew the Interquest K-9 contract for next school year, and the agreement has not changed, and so now this would be a renewal that we've done annually for a number of years. And each visit, by the way, the agreement is a cost of $300 for a half day and $450 for a full day, and then mileage. And Mr. Bunn, I put you on the spot. Is it more typical than not to do a full day at times? I know that the dog and the handler, they're traveling some distance, but do you know offhand if it's
Typically, it's a half day,
half day?
because then he will travel to a different school, give Chevy a break, and then do another round.
Okay.
Or stay overnight somewhere and hit the building the next day.
Thank you. Under workforce resignations, Josh Inouye, who is a driver for us, we thank Josh for his 5 years of the service and wish him and his family the best in the future. Ms. Jennifer Fredrickson, our current music choir vocal director, and we thank her for her 10 years of service to the district and wish her the best also in the future. Retirements. There are 3 for this evening. Pat Tyre, our district data manager, and Pat has given 24 years of service to the district, and we wish her well in her retirement. Becky Johnson, custodian at the elementary school, and we congratulate and thank Becky for her 21 years of service to the district and wish her well. And then Ms. Judy Christensen, elementary paraprofessional, also 21 years of service, and we thank Judy and wish her well in her retirement. Under employment, we're pleased to recommend to the board the employment of Ms. Bethany Tennis, kindergarten teacher, and we note that she would be getting at the base salary for next school year. This is the time of year where, as part of the consent, we simply note our teachers who are advancing on the probationary leading to tenure cycle. And so those teachers who would be advancing to their second year of probation next year include Devin Dobesh, Alexis Kubista, Nicholas Seiler, and Luke Strina. Teachers who will be advancing then to their third year in the district probationary status: Marcus Fisher, Olivia Erickson, Brittany Nesbitt, Sarah Miskin, Cynthia Gale, Liz Sternagel, and Cassidy Williams. And then finally, those who would be moving and achieving their 10-year status through the school district: Kelly De La Cruz, Neil Fox, Laura Garlow, Mark Kruger, and Brittany Muchler. So we thank those individuals and congratulate them. Finally, we note again under statewide enrollment options, we are noting that right now at this time, 3 students who have moved to our district but have decided to remain in their current school in the district that they recently moved from. Okay, I hope I covered everything that's included in the consent agenda, As in the past, if any board member wants to discuss, ask questions, and/or consider or voting on any item individually, you simply request to have that item pulled out, and then you consider a motion for the remainder. Short of that, if there are no requests to pull an item out, then we'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Mr. Mueller to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Lauren Shainrod,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to recommended actions, we'll start with the workforce on the 21-22 staffing plan. Dr. Carlson, please.
Yes, in your board packet, I've included the memo or letter to you outlining in a narrative format the staffing plan. And I simply noted the changes for you from the April initial presentation. And those are highlighted for you. And there's two changes, and they are the recommendation that we add 2 interventionist positions. And I'm just going to ask the two principals to briefly just describe each of the positions, and we'll start with the elementary math interventionist.
The timing of this position is ideal. We've just adopted a new curriculum, and it is significantly requires quite a bit more rigor from the students. And we have in place at the elementary an intervention program, a solid intervention program for reading. We've identified a need to have that same type of individual small group intervention for students in the area of mathematics. And so this interventionist would work directly with students, small groups. They'll work closely with teachers and others within the building. And based on our assessment data, we'll then identify those students who would greatly benefit from that support. So this is a needed position at the elementary, and one, especially with the adoption of our new program, that we're excited about the possibility of having.
All right, I can go next. The reading interventionist, I think it's year 8 now, that have been really wanted to have a specific person geared toward reading intervention. We've done some smaller scale things, but really looking for some support, especially after the last year reading support in, of course, at the secondary school.
Both these positions have been on a priority needs list for multiple years. That has been brought to the board through the presentation of our staffing plans. And so, and certainly the timing, as they mentioned, with the year that we've experienced, and in the spirit and intent of the additional funding that school districts are receiving, we believe that this is the time and to move forward with both positions. And as I allude to, we're estimating an average cost of about $62,500 for each of the positions. The elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, or referred to as ESSER funds, would definitely be a source of funding for both of these positions. And which I already said, that's really intended to be used, those funds, to help school districts address the financial and learning challenges resulting from the pandemic. those are the two additions to the staffing plan. I have not made any other changes to that. So it does change a little bit on the budget impact towards the end. And we added that to the list, and it would just be adding those dollars to the staffing plan and the budget. So, happy to take questions from you regarding the 2021-2022 staffing plan as it's presented to you. Anything that you want to know or questions you need answered in order for you to consider approval of this tonight.
Would these interventionists, would that be shared between the buildings, or is just the math for the elementary and the reading for the secondary?
Math for the elementary and reading for the secondary.
So if these ESSER funds are gonna pay for it, then Dr. Carlson, that really doesn't affect our general budget then, does it? Is it a net zero kind of thing?
Well,
the next 3 years.
that's one possibility. The board ultimately will be able to, and Carla can add to this. I think that has yet to be determined, and the board would have that flexibility, I think, depending on where our general fund lands. And through our budget work, which we will now prepare and have that hopefully finalized for you and ready to go at the next school board meeting in June. But that is one possibility. Ms. Christopherson, anything to add to that question as far as the source of funds, and can it be totally ESSER versus?
Right. So, if you remember, we're projecting overspending, let's just use roughly 300,000. We're getting 400,000 in just ESSER 2. We're getting 800,000 in ESSER 3. So if you kind of look at it as maybe we spread that out over 3 years, 400,000 a year. We're talking about, doing these two interventionists, and then just kind of, we have another meeting Wednesday, but not doing a lot more. We'll just kind of wait and see, but we're kind of looking at coding a couple of our elementary teachers where we can recognize low class sizes as another way of boosting. So some of the expenses that are already in that 300,000. So we just kind of want that flexibility to wait and see what happens, see which students return, get our new administrators in, kind of see what next steps we need to use with that money. But we probably will be looking at taking all of that in next year's revenue and coding some new things, plus some things we're already doing there.
That would then help our budget situation a little bit.
Yeah. And if you talk to other districts, some are using it all for new things, some are using it completely to fill gaps, and we just think a combination might make sense for us right now.
What's the time frame to use the ESSER 3 funds? Is that 3 years?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So that includes this year?
Yeah, we haven't been told we can apply for that yet. So we just applied and approved for ESSER 2. We could start taking it this year, but I think we'll be able just to hold off till July 1. And so then we'll have 21, 22, and 22, 23. ESSER 3, we get that one more year. So again, in my mind, it'd be nice to use ESSER 2 next year, first half of ESSER 3, second half of ESSER 3. But if things come up and we need to use it faster than that, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So this staffing plan presented to you, it is acknowledging the additional interventionist positions as well as we talked about in April, intentionally maintaining our staffing levels, which if we're projecting the enrollment change of a decrease, it is resulted in a smaller, at the elementary school, an overall smaller class size average. And then also, but still providing at the secondary school, same opportunities for kids, even though our enrollment might be down. So that is that additional, there's an additional cost there. So I think a takeaway from this staffing plan as it's being proposed is the additional cost is somewhat, like Carla said, maintaining, as well as the addition of these two positions.
Will there be additional cost for curriculum for those two positions? Or do you have?
At the elementary, we, as part of our new math program, we were provided intervention curriculum, so we'll be using that.
There could be for 7, 8, we'll have to talk some more about, it would make sense to continue the.
And then would there, like, right now, there's no FAST or STAR or anything to do any testing to find out who in the secondary building.
Right, we have, what's that?
I think we could go in 6th grade.
Yeah, 6th grade for sure next year.
So you might want to get something maybe in the future for 7th and 8th grade?
Right.
Okay.
The challenge to get staff for these positions?
Will it be?
Well, right, is
Um,
staff readily available, or I know the challenge in some other positions has been.
Yeah, although I was encouraged with the number of applicants we
Okay.
had for the kindergarten position.
Okay.
That was a while ago, but
Sure.
hopefully that individual is out there.
Great.
If the board were to approve the staffing plan as presented, we would be working as early as tomorrow to move forward with posting of these two positions.
I don't doubt that there's a need for these positions, as we've all been talking about how the past year has been, but the challenge is one-time money being used for them, then someplace down the road we have to adjust that and see, but for the time being, it sounds like there's been some thought into how this could potentially work to cover and still be responsible to our budget. Anyone care to move forward with approving the staffing plan, or do you need more discussion or questions answered?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 staffing plan as presented.
Second it.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Ms. Engel to approve the 2021-2022 staffing plan as presented. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, roll call, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Richmond Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Lauren Shainrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to facilities, the next few items have had a little discussion through our Buildings and Grounds Committee. We can totally try and answer some questions and help the others along through this, but to introduce each and every item here, I would ask Dr. Carlson to move forward with that.
We will start, let's see, the order is the bleacher replacement, and the Buildings and Grounds Committee is recommending to replace the high school gymnasium bleachers. They charged, the committee also in preparation for tonight, charged administration with coming forward with a specific recommendation. And the proposal, the quote that we are coming forward tonight with is with the, let me just, so the safe, or the, as many of us know of it as stadium speed. And so this is one of two, and this is, I can tell you that Mr. Stork is recommending this, and he has spent the most amount of time on researching the bleacher replacement. I think there are some differences, but in the end, we're looking at a similar seating capacity type units installing and so on in the gymnasium. I think the current bleacher system has become really not functional and operational as far as how it's supposed to be. And again, the committee believes the timing is now to move forward with this. And so it is a group that we're somewhat, that's known in the area and familiar with. And so we estimated it, I think we said about $90,000 when it's all said and done in that general area. Committee members, do you have other comments or additional things to offer?
I think one of the advantages that we're looking at would be the new bleacher system will allow for some perimeter access along both sidelines. So what that means, that's moving that first row of bleachers back. I don't know the exact measurement, but then on that north wall, it would be an entire bleacher. Now correct me if I'm talking out of turn here, Dr. Carlson, please, but that entire north wall would be continuous bleachers all the way through, and that partition would eventually come out and or not be used to divide the gymnasium.
Is the partition coming out or right away, or we?
Yeah, so we got some bids on that, and we attempted to get some bids on that, and people are a little busy right now. So we decided that one isn't really dependent on the other, so we could keep moving forward on the bleachers, and we tried to get in with the company. For example, the company that's coming to Ellendale June 7th to take down the canopy, their primary job in the summer is concrete. So we thought maybe Christmas break, or we can find a different time to bring someone in and do that, because I don't think it affects the bleachers. We just can't,
Right.
or can't.
Just won't be able to close it for the time
Yeah.
being on that north wall.
But I think right now we'd be paying a premium, and we don't really need to,
Right.
you know, and nobody wants to give us a second bid, so we thought, let's just put that on hold.
But long term, that was part of the discussion, that would, the uses are very minimal, that actually gets close to, and it's becoming more of an eyesore in our opinion than it is a real asset to the gymnasium, so. And what else, yeah,
You know,
those are the highlights of it.
The safety piece to this, not only a safer functioning system, but also with the court side and allowing more space
Right.
between the actual court sideline and the first row of bleachers, and trying to, and yes, we're projecting a decrease in seating capacity. We aren't able to really give you a good, solid projection, I don't feel tonight, of what that might be, so we realize that. But, so there's a little bit of a trade-off there for a newer system and providing a little bit more of a safety distance between that first row and the court itself.
Dr. Carlson, could you explain to me a little more in detail what option 2 is, what that is, what that involves? Can you go to the diagram and explain that to me?
Yeah,
If that was the deduct, correct?
Yes.
right.
And was that somehow the way they folded, Dr. Carlson, in our discussion?
The elimination of the row.
Okay,
So it only made an 8-row bleacher instead of a 9-row bleacher. So is that where we got the increased space between the court and the first bleacher, or?
is that where the system, like the first row would be 2 rows up then? Or
Yeah, I think that was
a
gonna be,
higher?
I didn't really like the sounds of that, cause it was gonna be a drop off about, I'm sure it'd be a rail or something like instead of a standard issue start from the floor and work your way up.
Okay, so they eliminated the first row.
Right.
and
Yeah.
just moved that
Yeah.
up and
It'd be
then,
a sharper
okay.
drop there is the way, is
I
that,
didn't
were
really-
we
yeah,
right on that?
Yeah, Mr. Sork had explained it to us.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I didn't really like the sounds of that just 'cause it was,
Right,
just seemed like almost a hazard to me.
and then in fairness, there was one that was up over $100,000 that we looked at also, that had some more of a folding type issue, or was that even the movable to where, there were some benefits that
Some,
we-
but we didn't feel.
Yeah. I
right,
think
So
some
we weren't-
sections could go in for
Right.
the table, scorer's table, and then some out. It just,
right, it was,
he just felt
it was a feature that, so in fairness, I think it bears repeating that we're not way up on top of the options. We felt this was a good middle of the road. Again, that one feature of saving 4,000 to us as a committee did seem like it was worth the 4,000, so.
Well, and
We
that,
could,
if, Lauren, the bleachers are in a state now where they're barely functioning. And so for them to be rebuilt, I think it was like we'd have to spend about 25% of replacement to get them functioning again. So that's kind of how this came up, is they're really not working too well. The whole roller system and everything is not rolling. So to repair it, we would spend so much, I think it'd probably be better to start over, you know.
and if it would help, I mean, the cost, when we say approximate 90,000, you know, if the decision was still to be made between those two options, we could elevate that estimate a little bit, I suppose, with whatever the board is comfortable with.
I guess in situations like this, I sometimes like to recommend, not to exceed that 90,000. We still, similar to our bond referendum, we want to give the administration some leeway to move forward if that's what we decide to do here tonight. But to pin it down to a specific figure is
Yeah.
a little challenging. Is that the way I'm understanding
The
this?
safer might be 95,000,
Okay.
quite honestly. That might be the safer amount to do for tonight, to say not to exceed.
So are they still gonna be able to use the same scorer's table? That's a complete
Yeah.
set?
That will be set into an area within the bleacher system. Is that safe to assume, or will it be, I guess I didn't get the complete details of that
I
either.
believe so.
Mhm. The other thing that this will bring is some handicap seating areas to the, that we haven't
Had before.
had before, so I think, and it'll be a plastic product versus the wood that we've all grown to love as we've sat there over the last 30 years. I don't know the age of these, but it's approaching, we've got our life expectancy out of this bleacher system as far as it. So, yeah, it'll be a nice update to the gymnasium here and
So as the board is considering, I would recommend to modify the 90,000 figure, so to approve the contract with SAAFE at a cost to not exceed $95,000 to replace the high school gym bleachers.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve, to move forward with, excuse me, now I'm having trouble with who we have here on that.
SAFE.
SAFE, in the amount of not to exceed $95,000 to replace the high school gym bleachers. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Lauren Shinrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. The high school gym lobby entrance, The doors have again ran their life expectancy, and Dr. Carlson, you can tell us more about that particular project.
You have a recommendation, similar, the Buildings and Grounds Committee is recommending to move forward with a remodel, an update to the wall, the entrance down, I'm looking in that direction, down at the bottom of the steps and that whole wall there with the doors leading into eventually the lobby to the gymnasium coming up the stairway. And so if you have noticed, it's the outside, it's quite, it almost has this rusted appearance and it really needs attention. And so we have looked at, in fact, this one, we have worked with a consultant a little bit through Knudsen Construction, who's been working on our building, and Ford Metro has actually, they have been here doing some work with the construction project. So this one is really to do a real good overhaul and really to kind of remove that whole wall or curtain as far as that exterior, with the exception of some of the major support pillars or beams and columns. And so you see we offer an estimate of about $60,000, because that, when you look at this, we also have to account for demo and removal, which is not in that price tag. There was a second quote that we researched that is somewhat less than this amount, but it is not, in our opinion, and committee members correct me if I'm, in our opinion, it's not doing the extent of removal and replacement that we feel this quote is. And rather than just putting a kind of cover over some existing things that we think should be just totally discarded and removed.
Yeah, and some of when Dan took me down, there's the threshold and stuff is just totally rusted out. And that other company, they were talking about just covering it with some type of material, I suppose, that you would bend or something to that. And eventually that would, I mean, it doesn't solve the problem, it just, to me, was a cosmetic fix.
Be a Band-Aid.
Pardon?
It'd be a Band-Aid on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
The structure would be the same, it'd just be new fascia, basically. This will have a new structure.
I did fail to mention also with the bleachers that this project as well, we would be looking at our long-term facility maintenance dollars to fund both these projects.
So is this just the main door area, or does this go up into the entrance to the gym also?
Yeah, this does not include, so it does not include the rest. It's just those initial doors and that exterior wall. That's what this addresses.
Just the outside doors?
Yep, just the outside. Nothing as you get into the building.
The one thing that we will realize here, though, are some energy savings here also that will help to pay back, because again, I don't know if we have an age on the existing glass in the system there, but
it's single pane.
you're right. So we're expecting to have some energy savings, and for those of us that have used that throughout the course of winter, again, if you have glass, we're not going to have it completely energy efficient, but I'm hopeful we'll see a very drastic improvement on the energy savings there too. So.
Similar to the bleachers, I'm wondering, it would be best for a motion to consider to come up with a dollar figure to not exceed. I don't know how confident we are in this one, to say to not exceed the $60,000 number. Committee members, and Ms. Gustafson, any thoughts on that?
No, because Colin that was just a ballpark figure, so I don't know if he knows Ford Metro will take, yeah, that one's a little tougher. I think if you could approve the base bid plus, we have to look at that add-on. I noticed they have in there I gotta get a better understanding of that alternate too. He just said if I was you guys, I would assume 60,000, so I don't know. You can put 60 in the
I think in this particular figure, again, in the environment that we're living in as of today, and obviously we would expect administration to get the most aggressive bid there, but I think in the neighborhood of 10%, putting that up to 65,000, not to exceed 65,000. The other thing, and again, we don't want to feel rushed on any of these projects, but the environment we're in right now, I don't want to postpone if we choose to move forward on this. We've had the initial contacts, and getting scheduling now is challenging too, so.
Yeah, and you heard, right, that this, as of last week, they're estimating they cannot be here before school starts.
Sure.
But Mr. Stork will work with them to
During
bring
the
them in when
season.
they're ready, and he
Sure.
will reroute traffic for ball games.
Sure.
Yeah, we haven't been using that entrance anyway.
Right,
Oh,
be a
you're
great
gonna
time to
sell
be, well, right, back even now. Again, I kind of feel this is, I don't want to talk for the committee, but I think it's a committee recommendation for the two of you here this evening that sure feel free to ask other questions, but I think it's a good project and I think it's justified.
I'll make a motion to go ahead with the gym lobby entrance remodel as presented, not to exceed 65,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Ms. Engel to move forward with the high school gym lobby entrance remodel not to exceed 65,000. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rouse,
Aye.
Lauren Shinrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. As many of you have noticed, the secondary school electronic sign has not operated properly for quite some time, and we would like to discuss that subject now. Dr. Carlson, please.
Yeah, the Buildings and Grounds Committee discussed the possibility of replacing the current secondary school electronic sign that serves, the school specific, but also the district through the district office. The sign is no longer functional. There is interest in, I think the committee had approached the idea of additional or other resources for revenue for the sign replacement, even including advertising. The committee wasn't necessarily prepared tonight to come with a recommendation here. Let's go with this quote. We've secured 2 quotes at this time, and they do, when you look at them, they are quite different in cost, but we're not suggesting in any way that they are an apples to apples comparison. They don't have the same specific specs, for example. We don't believe anyway at all. So this is kind of up for discussion tonight. We did put it under recommended actions in the event the board was prepared to make a decision tonight with this. We included, again, two quotes. This is the first one, AIM Electronics, and you can see kind of the range that is offered here. And then the M&M sign quote, which again, is, some might say is significantly less, but we just need to know that it does not, in our opinion, it does not compare, given the quality or the type of sign that we might be wanting, such as an LED, almost like a large monitor system, I'll say TV, but versus just a scrolling message type thing with letters. So it's really more discussion tonight, but there is a possibility that the board was in a position, or at least give some further direction on where we go. So committee members.
I think one of the big differences between the two, M&M with their proposal leaves a lot of variables out there as far as how costs could increase in their proposal. If you can kind of picture the sign out there with the two pillars and then the cabinet that sits on those two pillars. M&M is talking of just coming in and remodeling that existing cabinet more or less in the area of where the electronic display is currently, and placing another their product in that particular cabinet. AIM, on the other hand, is virtually taking the entire old cabinet out, replacing that with, like Dr. Carlson mentioned, an LED type display that would essentially look relatively close size-wise to what we have now, except in that electronic area, that display would be the entire area. If you look at that on your way out tonight, you could kind of picture that being. So the display area would be much larger with AIM electronics, and again showing some what we feel is some very beneficial features as far as color graphics, and and visiting with Mr. Bunn as far as involving some more picture capabilities of students' activities, and getting a little bit more into the promotion of things going on in the school. I think the capability there would be much greater between the two. And again, back to M&M, I think if we really went back to them and said we needed hard figures, they would no doubt provide that and get a little deeper, but I think those bids might come in quite a bit closer than they are right now when they talk about the remodeling that they need to do to make theirs functional in that area also.
So have you thought about possibly going out to the community and saying, hey, if you want to put something on our board, it'd cost you, this bit of money or something, just for.
Travis, you want to speak to that a little bit?
We've had those discussions, Rich. And at first I'm kind of on the fence now. At first I was pretty gung-ho about that and go fundraiser, but I called John Graball, who from, is that what's the,
AIM.
AIM, yeah, that had the sign, the Daktronic sign, and so there'd be a few different ways to do that. You could simply go get donations. We decided we don't want to bolt a sign on the side of it. We want to keep that clean. The thing is electronic anyway, so if you wanted to advertise something, you just put it on the screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, because we talked about signs like we have in the scoreboards in the gym and stuff, and we decided that let's just keep that clean, and you can put whatever you want on there electronic. And trying to get some, I talked to him just today, and they're really, the way it turns out, he said it's relatively rare that schools have, it depends on the attitude of probably us as a board and the administration, what, if we want to turn I hesitate if we want to turn the sign into an advertisement piece, I guess. We can, and there's some schools doing it, but it's not that common. It's much more common that it's a solely school-related information. said sometimes the city might be involved, let's say if we wanted to talk to the city in New Richland and maybe they'd, you know, use it half the time. There's really no set rules, and I really couldn't get anything out of him. He didn't have enough experience with it to say this much of a sign for a minute is this much. There was no ground rules. So I'm kind of on the fence about it, actually. I don't know if it's right to advertise Casey's on, you know, I don't know.
I think there's a fine line on where you open that up to, and being, number one, we want to be fair to our people that are interested in donating, but there's also some management to that then in staffing to make sure that those obligations are met as a school district. And so then you start doing the math on, let's call it a $40,000 project. What is the fair? I mean, you start running into these roadblocks, as Travis says. On the outside, that all feels like, gosh, we could perhaps, you know, what if we could get half of it covered? But you divide that out, and do you allow that for 2 years of advertising, or how many minutes, and what time of the day? Because priority would be our school district, promotion and things that are going on in our building and district. So it starts getting a little cloudier than one might think, just initially thinking.
I mean, there's kind of three angles to it. So is it solely a sign for the school? Do you promote anything to do with the school, which is most common? Do you try to advertise it to the degree that you pay for the sign? Would be the next one. Or do you try to advertise with it to the degree that you make money with it? And I don't know. I'm starting to lean more and more towards just paying for it
Right.
and use it solely for the school.
If it's the type of sign that any advertising is part of the messaging, the display, then that does add a whole nother layer of the management of it as well. And because depending on your advertising policy and guidelines, you know, it might be so many messages a day or per hour or however you do that, and it just adds that much to it. And I think as some of you said, that this is really looked to be really communicating the school district out to the community. And sometimes you might still see signs that part of the system, but not part of the messaging, you have the sponsors.
Right.
And things like that. And just not part of the messaging.
At the athletic complexes, you know, that's done, and to me that's kind of different.
Exactly.
You know, because you see that more commonly at different stadiums will use businesses for sponsors. But the more I think about it, I almost feel like this should be just school related, because it's cool to have signs up at the ball fields or whatever. That's neat, but and that almost kind of adds to the environment. But when you got a Casey's sign up taking up the whole thing, when you could be talking about graduation or, you know, congratulations to the seniors, or, you know, promoting.
But if Casey's wanted to come and purchase that and pay for that sign, we would put a really nice thank you on there the first week of.
That's why it's up for discussion.
The first
I don't know
week,
what the right
you know,
thing is.
and I think that might be a little bit different angle versus, I think I was
Casey's 2 blocks east.
Right.
You know, get your door.
Right, I think there's a fine line between advertising, and if there were donations solicited to it, we would definitely acknowledge them for a certain amount of time and thank them via the sign system. But I think it would be a little more challenging than one might think to say we could offer an advertising package.
And he talked about how on television, which I don't watch much of anymore, but isn't it like 20 minutes of the hour is advertising? Well, that wouldn't be, to me,
feasible to it.
Well, it wouldn't be feasible, it
Well,
wouldn't be appropriate, I don't
right.
think. You know,
So I guess, back to that committee, and we're, as Dr. Carlson said, we don't necessarily expect a complete action item here in a motion necessarily, but we felt that we were getting far enough along with the committee to say, let's involve the other board members here, and I apologize that we're missing a couple here tonight. We can perhaps Hopefully if they follow up and have done their homework on the agenda, they can have an opportunity to talk with Dr. Carlson on any thoughts they might have. But we're just hoping to hear from a feeling from you guys, if you feel that project is something you want us to come back and do, go to the next level and come with a recommendation, or if you're thinking that, you know, I mean, our approach as a committee has been, it's not working, it hasn't for quite some time. We need to make a decision there. Either we're walking away from any type of publication on that area and take it out is another option, or if we feel there's a value and we want to promote and tell the goings on in the district, then we need to plan on improving it. So.
We do believe this is a significant piece of property equipment to our district, and so on. We feel that it is an appropriate use of our long-term facility maintenance as well. So that could be a funding source for this.
I guess personally, if I look at these two bids, and the M&M one is just basically a retrofit. You know, and I guess if I'm gonna spend this kind of money, I'd rather spend a little bit extra to get something sitting out there that's gonna look nice. And so I guess my opinion would be go with this AIM Electronics.
Appreciate that.
Well, my thought on that is, it appears to me we've got two different bids. Well, I know we have two different bids, but they're not comparable bids. And my suggestion would be to go to M&M and say, here's our specs. And I like the AIM full color LED sign. I think they're really eye-catching and they look nice. But I'd give M&M a chance to say, okay, this is what we want. First off, can you provide it?
Fair enough.
And if they say, no, we just retrofit everything, then we know.
Sure.
But if they come back and say, this is what we can do under your specs, and then look at their bid.
Okay. Good advice. We can definitely follow up with that. And I think we could perhaps, don't want to put a time frame on, but hopefully we could come back with something to answer that question and maybe more of a recommendation for next month, if that's a satisfactory solution to this. But thank you for the good discussion, and again, the other two board members, I hope, have an opportunity to share with Dr. Carlson or myself their opinion on that too. So, great.
So do we need to make a motion to table this till next month?
We really didn't have it as an action item anyway, and this
Okay.
is where there was no motion to approve.
Had it as a potential.
Right.
But
Yep.
there's no motion.
So-
Yeah, yep.
Appreciate that though. Good discussion, and thank you for that. So, moving on to the Legion Field lease agreement. Dr. Carlson, please.
Thank you. This, we discovered during this year, working with the city, is that our current lease ended last June of 2020, and it caught some of us quite honestly off guard. We thought that we had a 5-year lease, and it ended up being a 3-year lease from 2017 to 2020. So meeting, Mr. Stork and I met in March with the city, and at that time, let's just do an agreement to get us through the end of this year, and that's what this is. And here we are, we're almost to the end of the year. And I know it's a little, we just want to get this on the record done. The city council did approve this, and at a recent meeting. And so they're looking just to ask the board to approve it. And then the district will need to get to work on renewing this more long-term for the next, probably look at a 5-year lease, and that can be done this summer. So this is just a temporary step before coming with a long-term. And I think there might be, why wouldn't we do that right now? I think there is a desire to have some more discussion about some pieces of the agreement for long-term. Questions? Otherwise, we would be looking at motion to approve the March 22nd, 2021 to June 30th, 2021 lease agreement with the City of New Richland
I'll
for
make,
Legion Field.
I'll make a motion to approve the Legion Field lease agreement as presented.
So I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Mr. Mueller to approve the Legion Field lease agreement as presented. Any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Warren Shainrod,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye, motion carries. We have a health insurance bid. Dr. Carlson, please.
The recommendation is for the district to renew with the public employee insurance program as the health insurance provider for the coming year. And we've involved key staff leaders, most notably our teacher group, in this discussion and review. And the premium costs, just so you know, do represent an approximate 7% average overall increase. And I think, and I know Ms. Christopherson, I don't know if you have anything to add to this. And
Yeah, not really, other than we didn't have a lot of choices, just based on our usage and our claims. So this is more of a letting you know we're doing this versus getting a lot of discussion on it. We need to move forward on this.
So we'd be looking for a motion to approve to renew with the Public Employee Insurance Program as the health insurance provider for 21-22.
I'll make a motion to approve the health insurance bid as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the health insurance bid as presented. Any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Warren Shainrod,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye, motion carries. Time of the year where we need to approve the graduation class of 2021 and the ceremonies. So Dr. Carlson, please.
So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Bunn. You have two documents. You have the list of graduates and you have a letter. But Mr. Bunn, would you just want to briefly present to the board what they have and ask what we're asking them for their approval?
Sure, I think most notably, let's talk about having the ceremony as normal as we can. We received the most recent guidance, and we believe that we can be able to run the ceremony. We've had several discussions about whether or not we're going to have to limit tickets and that sort of thing, and we believe that we do not need to do that. The capacity limits will be whatever we can normally handle. We made a provision out. I've worked a little bit with Tony Martins, and we'll shut down the street. So how we usually have the receiving line outside, we'll do that again, but we'll be able to use that whole little area of Ash Avenue to kind of spread out a little bit and have more room. We do have in there, face coverings will be worn. Also that we're trying to keep people, in their seats and trying not to move around too much. We've engaged a professional photographer for diploma distribution. And we'll try to make sure that we get people out of there in sections, so not everybody's kind of going at one time. So those are pretty much the most notable things, I think, for the ceremony itself. But otherwise, hey, this is a good thing. Kids and families are looking forward to this and think we're there now.
So part of this, you have two things. You have the list of graduates. And the and that's contingent upon that they all satisfy their requirements to graduate, and what has yet to be finalized and determined. And then the other one was this letter which Mr. Bunn, along with Ms. Bentley, put together that sent home last week, just to clarify and update what that Mr. Bunn just went through. So I know, and I just want to thank Mr. Bunn and Ms. Bentley for their continued work on this, as it's really, we're all hoping it could be just a wonderful celebration at that time, in a little over 2 weeks. So, questions, comments that the board has?
Well, I never thought I would say this out loud, but I'd like to say thank you to the Minnesota government for opening that up a little bit, because I was catching a lot of heat at home about grandparents and whatnot attending the ceremony, so thank you, Governor Waltz, for that.
Big bold print on the front
Yeah.
page, read please.
Board member Ross.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's very well put, Travis. I think we're all there with you, that we're excited to have some sense of normalcy there.
I know as part of the messaging to families last week, Mr. Bunn and Ms. Bentley also emphasized, though, how important it is the remainder of the school year. We still have to look and expect our students and families and staff, all of us, to do everything we can, because we do want every single graduate and everybody to be able to participate and attend, because what hasn't gone away is the requirement of the contact tracing and the quarantine isolations, and so that hasn't gone away. So we just, we keep at that, we keep working at that. So the best way to make sure that we're all there is to stay the course and keep doing what we can do and follow the guidance as provided. So we customarily do kind of approve the graduates ahead of time. We haven't consistently every year asked you to kind of approve the general guidelines for the ceremony. The board did last year because that was so unique. We are asking you to also approve the general plans for the graduation ceremony that have been laid out to you tonight as well.
I think we can do that all in one motion unless there's
Yes,
a reason
it
to.
could be as simple as approve the class of 2021 candidates and graduation ceremony as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the graduating class of 2021 and the ceremony.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the graduating class of 2021 and the ceremony. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Warren Shainrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Last item this evening is rescinding the COVID-19 face covering policy 808. Dr. Carlson, please.
Well, thank you. And as we put this together late last week, or early in the week, thought that it was clear. And I'll have to admit to you tonight that I think that what is proposed to you, we are sharing language directly with you from the Minnesota School Board Association, and a possible motion to rescind our policy 808 would be something like to approve to rescind policy 808, which is the COVID-19 face covering. At the time when the state of Minnesota announces a 70% vaccination rate has been reached, or on July 1, 2021, whichever comes earlier. This is the last guidance that we have received from the School Board Association that I am aware of as of today, earlier today. I think that some of the communication that was shared with us towards the end of last week regarding masking and face coverings, for example, some may just be added to the confusion. And so I I wish I had more for you, if anything will or has changed versus what was communicated to us over a week ago from the School Board Association, which I know you probably saw as well. This is what we have. Another option for you as a board is, you know, you can follow the executive order. And so you could take official and formal action on this at the June meeting, if you would want to. But once the school year is over and so on, we would continue to follow whatever the executive order or guidance from MDE provides for us. So I don't know if I'm being clear. Again, this was clear to us when, prior to last week, when part of that message last week was, in many settings, you can lose the face mask. You can't in schools. We're still going to apply the safe learning plan, at least through the last contact day with kids. The policy that this board put together last September was just saying pretty much we all have to wear a face covering in school. And so these need to align with one another. And this, I'm comfortable if you wanted to proceed with this. Anything short of this, I'm not that comfortable to recommend to you tonight. Or we could just let it go and come back and formally rescind this in June.
One question I have is, if we get rid of this policy, what happens, not saying I want it to happen, what happens like this fall, and, you know, we're back in the same situation?
I think we'll be doing something different by fall anyway. This is just short term, isn't it? It's just against the school year.
Great question.
I mean, will we still have it on the books that where we can just pull it out and update it? Or when we rescind it, does it just, do we totally get rid of it?
I mean, there'd always be a record of it, I guess, of what we use. The thing that, as I try to make decisions on this, I've always tried to say, okay, where is our guidance? Because they are the true drivers of what we've tried to decide. And now that they're saying that, you know, that mask mandate is being backed off, we can no doubt rescind this. In the event of fall being an outbreak, we'll have more guidance there, and maybe that would have to be tweaked back or repeated, I think. But I think there's a value in following what they're allowing us to do from the state. So I think it's worth going ahead and rescinding and adjusting if need be.
Just taking a look at it in the fall and see what happens.
The other part I will say there though too, and again, I applaud you as board members tonight wearing our masks and administration, wherever you fall in the range of the need for them. We're asking our students and our staff to continue throughout the end of the school year. So as people involved with the school district as we are, I think we're setting examples. I know we're all tired of it. We wish it was gone away a long time ago. If we can get through, as Dr. Carlson stated earlier, get this class graduated, get us the summer, and hopefully come back strong in the fall will be a great accomplishment. But I don't see any fear in rescinding this evening, I guess, because if there's new guidance, we'll adjust to that new guidance and bring it back.
Yeah, they'd give us,
Absolutely.
the health department and
Right.
NDE would give you their
Right.
new policies or recommendations. So
Which
you
is-
probably have to change it anyway.
Right. Which has been our approach through this entire process, is this isn't stuff we've made up ourselves as a board even, it's been guided along the way.
Well, with the leeway that we've been granted, I would move that we adopt the policy here
Correct.
of rescinding the face mask.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schoenrock, seconded by Mr. Rout to rescind COVID-19 face covering policy 808 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Lauren Shamrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Last motion would be for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rao, seconded by Mr. Mueller to be adjourned. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Rich Mueller.
Aye.
Travis Rao.
Aye.
Ron Shainrock.
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Have a good evening.